What up, though? What it do? Greetings, salutations, all the good greetings and blessings I can give you guys, man. Listen, thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Retired from the Streets podcast. I'm your host, OG Kenny. I started this podcast initially because I wanted to tell the stories of people who didn't have the voice to do so anymore. Individuals who were doing either a lot of time in prison or those who came home after a lot of time in prison, and seeing their transformation, because I was always enthralled and mesmerized by these stories of people who's resilient. I mean, you think about Nelson Mandela in 27 years in prison. I remember hearing his story growing up and was like, whoa, a man that took 27 years in prison because of something he believed in, and all he had to do was say, this is something I'm denouncing, this is something I no longer subscribe to, right? This man took it on the chin for almost 30 years. I couldn't fathom it. So when I started getting into the streets, you know what I mean, when I got a little older and I started running across people who had came home, like my father used to have me going to pick up dudes from parole officers a lot, who had just came home from 15, 20, a lot of years. After going and actually seeing him in prison myself and waiting for a few years, I know how long that process took and how much we went through as a family. So to hear stories and to know personally, be able to shake hands and talk to and ask questions with individuals who personally had done decades in prison, I got some of the most mind-blowing insight into life, some of the most shape-shifting as far as my thoughts, stories, and I got to see firsthand the repercussions of living fast, living wild. I'm not saying everybody. You got some individuals who did a lot of time in prison for protecting their homes, protecting their family. Now, I'm not a judge. Whether they were right or wrong, that's not for me to say. I know one thing for certain. For my family, that's something I'm willing to take on the chin, right? So when I went to prison myself, right? I've been to prison 3 different times. I got a C prefix in Michigan Department of Corrections. I did a 5-year bid, I did a 3-year bid, and then I turned around and did a 2-year bid. And these were spaced out from 97 to 02. One I did from 07 to 2010, and the last one I went in 2013, and I came home 2015. So it went 5, 3, 2 in that order, right? So I met a lot of people in prison over the years. You can imagine, 10 years in prison, off and on, you meet a lot of people. I ran across a young brother named Davis Bay. I could never remember Davis Bay's first name, right? And right now, I won't even disclose his first name unless he, allow me to, and we talk later on. But I was trying to find Davis Bay, right? And as I'm looking him up, trying to find him, the logical thing to do when you can't remember somebody's name is to go on the Michigan Department of Correction website, right? Otis, and then I type in Davis and go alphabetical order through the males, the black males, because I know that was the easiest way to kind of minimize my search, right? As I'm going through the A's, nothing looks familiar. I get to the B's, nothing looks familiar, but a name sticks out, Barbara Davis, right? Barbara Davis, and I'm like, Barbara. Now, the name Barbara was a name that had a sentimental attachment to me, for one, because my good friend, one of my best friends growing up, Morel's mother name was Barbara, right? And Barbara was a very nice looking lady, and a lot of dudes used to be shooting at Barbara, and she was just like another mother / auntie to me. And I respected her class and the way she moved, because her and my mother kind of reminded me of one another, skin complexion wise, shape wise, attitude wise, and she was very welcoming into her home when I was a young buck. So that was the first reason that name Barbara was, that was my first encounter with a Barbara that stuck out in my mind. Secondly, I ran into a young lady when I came home in 02, that's still real good friends with me to this day. And I mean, I didn't know she was a Capricorn at the time. I just knew we had a lot in common, and she thought like me, even though she was a female. So we got real tight, and we hung out a lot. And then I lost contact with her over the course of probably maybe 10 years. I was wondering where my homie at. So you got to think that was another reason. Third reason was I had an intimate, you know what I mean, relationship with a female named Barbara. So let's just say that much, right? The H2O, right? Now, as I'm looking through these names and I come across this Barbara Davis, I'm nosy because it says black female life, and I click on it and I see this picture, and in this picture it was a smile, right? And it wasn't a smile of like, damn, I'm doing life and I'm okay with that, or I did it and I'm crazy. It was a peaceful smile, a smile that more or less spoke to me, that says God got me no matter what, you know, no matter what my circumstances, no matter, I'm sitting here and I'm doing life. And as I'm going through her bio and reading her information, just being nosy really, right, I'm like, whoa, she's 30-ish, 40, you know, 30-something, 40, and she's been locked up since she was, I think she might have been, I don't remember the exact age when I first met Barbara, but she had been locked up since she was 21 years old, right? So for about 20 years, this woman had been doing time. I want to say at the time she had been locked up probably 17, 18 years, maybe close to 20. So it bothered me, man, you know, murder, right? And I'm like, wow, this don't look like somebody who killed somebody, right? I was putting together a program called, you know, for inmates, a writing program. At the time it was called Right My Wrongs. So the Right My Wrongs project was basically for inmates to get their stories out. Because like I say, me being an inmate at one point, or a convict, or whatever you want to call me, I wrote a lot of stories, short stories, books, scripts. Excuse me. I even read some from other people. We shared stories that we wrote and whatnot. So I knew some of the best and most creative authors were in the MDOC or other prison systems. So that was my thing. Instead of me busting my head and busting my butt to get stories out to the world, why not get some of these real stories from some of these people and be able to tell them in literature or film form, right? So I said, man, you know what? For about a week, 5 days to a week, something like that, I'm just thinking off and on about this young lady, like, whoa, it's messed up. And I know how it happens over time. You do 20 years, 15 years, sometimes your people go left. Your support system crumbles and falls and folds, right? Now, I didn't know what capacity I was going to play in her life. And I would never know that we would get this far in our relationship, right? I did know that I wanted to do something in the form of reaching out to her and seeing where I could be of assistance. So what I did was I spoke to my mentor, right? My spiritual advisor. It's the woman that gave birth to me. You know, so this is my most trusted person when it comes to anything that I want to run across somebody. So I go to her, I'm like, Mom. She's like, what up? I'm like, look, I'm being nosy. I'm looking at the brother. And I told her the story I just told y'all, how I ran across Barbara. So I'm like, I want to do something, but I don't know what. She was like, well, how you feel about it? You feel like there's something God, you know, is God putting it on your heart? I'm like, yeah. She's like, well, reach out to her. Just reach out to her. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. Now, I didn't know how I was going to word it. I didn't have no script, no way to come at her. I think it was something like, hey, I ain't on no weirdo stuff. I ain't no pervert. I'm a solid dude, all right? I've been there where you at. I ain't trying to intrude on your bed or your time that you're doing. And I don't know what your support system look like, but I do want to say that I couldn't imagine being in that situation. And I'm just kind of throwing it out there how I said. I don't know word for word, but I don't know what your situation is, what your support system, who looking out for you. You got family. But I just couldn't imagine doing that time alone. Or at the very least, I don't think it'd hurt having somebody like me for sure in your corner, a solid dude. Now, I shot it out. I'm like, call me, you know. I wouldn't mind like running some ideas past you. I got this writing program. I know a bunch of dudes that's in prison, but not many women. So maybe you can help me get these stories out, and you know, whoop-de-whoop. So initially, when she reached out to me, she finally called. I don't know how long it was, maybe a week or two. It wasn't real long. She called and was like, hi, this is Barbara. I'm kind of shocked, you know, that was a conversation. It was a little awkward for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then I just broke down to her. Like, look, this is how I feel about the situation. I don't know you, you don't know me. All I can say is that no matter where we go, you always have somebody that move with God's voice, right? Like, this is, with me moving, this ain't just God's plan, this is God's promise. God promised to put his strongest people out there, right, on the forefront. So I consider myself to be one of God's strongest soldiers, because I fortified myself over the years. I got weaknesses. I flash out sometime and cuss people out, right? I ain't gonna put my hands on nobody now. I ain't that type of dude. I mean, you know, you gotta push me. Everybody know me, know you gotta kind of go there for me to feel like I gotta put my hands on you. I'll be then left and been mad at home and, you know, drunk me a beer before I really go upside somebody's head, especially nowadays with everything I got going on in family and whatnot. However, that's what my mentality was at, right? So I want to sum this up for y'all. Barbara Davis, since I met her, has changed my life in so many different ways. What started as just a relationship or a situationship where we trying to, you know, go back and forth. She's helping me, I'm helping her. She started giving me all these stories of these women who were incarcerated, who some of them had heinous crimes, high profile crimes, right? It would have been easy to just say, ooh, this high profile, I remember this, it's a book. This woman wrote a book about her case and put it out there to the world. This is the type of stuff she was sending to me. Check the old girl out. This is a friend of mine, right? I didn't even really get into detail about what she was incarcerated for, because I was just really trying to help. I wasn't trying to get in her business. They were like, hey, can you help me? Because I see that, you know, it was something about that smile, man. I'm telling y'all, the eyes, you know, it was like when God is working through somebody, when God is in an individual, you can see it. If you got the spiritual discernment and spiritual maturity. So you know, over the years, I've most definitely worked to get to the point where my spiritual maturity leads my decisions. You know what I mean? I got better at that, listening to God's voice instead of turning it off and ignoring it. So when I get to the point where me and her are going steadily, you know, trying to figure out how we're going to format this program and how that looks for her and what her role is going to be in it, she starts telling me her story. And her story goes in brief like this. Barbara Davis' father did 8 years in prison for sexually molesting her and other members of her family, her cousins, and I want to say siblings, right? But I do know that it was her and other family members, so female young family members, very, very young family members, you know. So her mother pressed charges on him when she found out, like any good mother would do, right? This man did 8 years in prison, you know, drug addict, came home, and this is their account, you know, because I don't know him personally, but according to paperwork that, you know, and things that they provided me, this, you know, as a drug addict and a child molester, you go to prison for 8 years. You come home, maybe you were clean, maybe you were sober-minded, maybe you had got your life together on a spiritual level. What he did was, what Greg Davis did was, he got back into his family's life because they were forgiving and God-fearing and praying people. And they accepted him back. let him get back into a position with them, a forgiving and understanding position. And he violated that trust by manipulating and coercing Barbara, even though she was an adult. Come on now. I mean, Barbara has never once denied her culpability in what happened that led her to prison, right? But the influence of a father, man, and as we know, statistically speaking, women who are victims of a situation, right, who are put in a position where they are the vulnerable one in the situation, when they get convicted, they do more time than a lot of people. So when Barbara's father convinced her to leave this door open, right, for this individual and say, hey, babe, for months he hounded her, you know, this is her account to me, you know, my mama's house is going into foreclosure, Ken, this is what she's telling me, right? It's bad. She said, and I'm out. She said, I'm a little fast, but not too crazy. She had just had a daughter, her daughter Jada, and she was trying to get herself together. This was a young woman who was like, hey, I'm about to go to school. I'm about to get into my own place. I'm about to get away from this mess. And here come Pops with those manipulative tactics. Baby, come on now. Please, please. Can you hook me up with somebody that you know? Can you let me borrow some money? Listen, I don't have that right now. I don't got that. One of them dudes you know got some money. You got little dudes that like you, they got money, pulling up in cars and this, that, and the other. Tell you what, this is what you do. You ain't, listen. The one that you don't, you know, whatever, if y'all ain't messing around no more, just let me, or if y'all is, whatever it is, let me slide up in the house while y'all gone. Just leave the door open. I'm gonna grab some stuff. I'm gonna get the hell out. Hell no, she say. No, it's out of the question. It's out of the question. It's somebody that's cool with me, this, that, and no, I'm not doing that, right? That's her stance. Her father's rebuttal is, this is how you gonna leave your family. This is the guilt he putting on. This ain't word for word, but this is the guilt he's putting on her. This is the weight he putting on this young lady. Your mother about to lose her house. How you gonna feel about that when that happened, knowing you could have helped? I'm out here on these drugs real bad and I need help. How would you feel if I'm out here in these streets and I don't have nowhere to go and I'm dead, right? You know what I mean? So imagine that type of weight being put on you as a young person and you feeling like, hey, you minimize it. Especially when you're emotionally immature and you're on the verge of trying to find yourself, right? You minimize those type of things and you say, well, you know what? I tell you what, I'm gonna leave the door open, go in and grab some stuff and then and go. That would have been ideal. That would have been, in a perfect world, that would have been. But you know things don't never go as planned, especially situations like that. There's always somebody that was sleeping in the basement that you didn't know was there. Somebody came home before you got up out of there. Something like that. So in Greg Davis's case, what happened was the young man came home before he had exited. And actually, according to Barbara and her family, he waited around and waited because he wasn't satisfied with what he got. So he waited around. I don't know exactly how things went down in that house. Or, you know, but Gregory Davis killed that individual, and when confronted about it in a court, he remained silent and let his daughter do all the talking, and put herself in a self-incriminating position. Now, it could be argued that counsel could have told her, hey, keep your mouth shut and let the facts speak for themselves. Let the circumstantial evidence, you know, kind of hold his weight and let the judge decide, but don't put nothing else out there. But being a young and experienced with the judicial system person, a young lady who just want to make things right because she feel kind of effed up that, you know what I mean, that she even had any involvement in this individual that she really cared about is dead now. You get what I'm saying? Imagine that. And now you got this pressure on. Of course you're gonna say something. Okay, look, this will happen. I didn't want this to happen. My daddy just told me, well, I thought he was gonna do this, that, and come on out and have a TV, a VCR, I don't know, right? A watch. He didn't do that. You know, they don't want to hear that though, right? Don't nobody want to hear that, because the fact of the matter is, when it comes to law, if if you were an accessory before, during, and or after the fact, the crime that was committed will hold just as much weight with consequences on you as if you were the principal person. So Barbara Davis subsequently was sentenced to life in prison for that murder. Her father didn't do any time for that crime. So 20 some odd years later, here I am as a person who didn't know Barbara Davis a few years ago. I've reached out to her, and over the years she has become someone I am totally in love with. And I say that in the most purest and the most dignified way that I can say it. I'm in love with her resilience. I'm in love with her spirit. I'm in love with her intelligence. I'm in love with the fire in her voice when we talk, because I've never seen her face to face. But I'm in love with the fact that her mother, her siblings, and her daughter are still in her corner, still very much supportive. I met her sister Samantha, her mother, and her two nieces in Lansing, Michigan, about 3 or 4 months ago, maybe, something like that. We met at a rally to end mass incarceration and to promote a second look at lifers, especially juvenile lifers, like my brother Efren Paredes. At that meeting, I met an individual named Robert Hicks, whose brother Bruce Hicks has been incarcerated for 47 years for a crime that Robert is adamant about saying he committed. I interviewed Robert maybe a month or two ago, and he's going to be a special edition of the Retired from the Streets podcast that I'm going to be dropping. His family, Bruce Hicks' family, has been in his corner for 47 years. His mother's 97 years old. So this is another reason why I'm totally in love with Barbara Davis, because she has given me a renewed purpose for what I thought I was going to do. I had totally different plans for how I was going to use my camera. As a matter of fact, I'm filming off of one of my throwback cameras. This is my baby right here. This is my newer camera that I've only used probably a handful of times, and I'm filming on a camera I've had probably 10-11 years. No microphone, just the mic that's attached to it, a couple of lights set up right now, and in my studio at the crib, because I'm that passionate about what I believe in for this podcast, right? For what I'm trying to do for my friend Barbara Davis by getting some light on her case and getting the judge and prosecutor and everybody to look at her case and dissect it and have some sympathy on my friend and understand that we got work to do out here. She has work to do out here. She co-sponsored one of her first events about a month ago, a chili drive, where we fed a bunch of her, along with Feeding in the Mist, Brooklyn. What's Brooklyn last name? I don't remember Brooklyn last name, but Brooklyn. She's out in Buffalo, New York. Her nonprofit is Feeding in the Mist. She partnered up with my friend Barbara Davis, as well as iGlow Beauty and Skincare, and they did a chili drive right out of Fit and Fold Laundromat in Detroit. And man, you talking about a bunch of chili. I ate so many different type of chilies that day. I had heartburn for like 2-3 days, but bomb chili. So I love the fact that even from there, she's still like, hey, I need to put in some work. I want to help in whatever way I can. So wherever I can help her, financially or otherwise, I'm doing that, because I know that those gates and those walls do not stop the love that people have on a humanitarian level, on a philanthropic level. You hear me? So it's like, I get so fired up when I talk about this, because this is the meat and the gravy right now. Exposing injustice, right? It's in exposing situations where I think sentencing guidelines need to have a second look themselves, and a third and a fourth and a fifth look, because the sentencing guidelines are so antiquated that in this situation that she's been in, there should have been a review board, I don't know how long ago, for an assessment to say, okay, this woman is not a threat no more. I think I'm a pretty good judge of character when it comes to people. Even if I'm not a good judge of character sometimes about the things that I do, I'm adamant about knowing good people when I see them. And when every conversation I've had with this young lady, even when she's in a mood, you know, you got to understand she's going to have mood swings as well. She done had surgery in prison. Yeah, go through depression, go through times when she don't call me. I had to J-pay her, like, listen, homegirl, get off your butt and holler at your homeboy. You ain't talking to me. I need you to stay in tune with me. This journey that we about to embark on, these stories that I'm about to be telling you guys about prison and the streets, right? Everything that I went through, all these anecdotes, all these lessons that I learned. Because every story I'm going to be telling you, I don't care if it's violent, somebody got their throat cut, it's going to have a moral to the story, and it's going to be a lesson that somebody could take to avoid them going down that prison pipeline, ending up where my friend Barbara Davis is at, ending up where who's soon to become a good friend of mine, Bruce Hicks, is at, where Efren Peretti has been since he was 15 years old as a juvenile lifer. If we can stop one, and he can stop one, and then she can stop one, and they can stop one, if we can start the snowball effect, the butterfly effect, the domino effect of stopping people from doing bull, and all I gotta do is put my camera on and tell y'all stories about what I've been through, and then give y'all solutions and options of how to get out of them situations or how to avoid them in the first place, I'm gonna be on here as much as I can. Because I still got a life and I still got a daughter, but this is about to be most definitely one of my priorities. Putting this camera on and talking to y'all, because I talk to people every day as it is on the phone, counseling people, and I didn't even know I was doing that until people started calling me like, bro, you the guy I go to when I want to, you know, hear something sound, when I want to hear some good advice. All different colors, all different backs, walks of life. It varies, and I ain't turning nobody away unless you want some garbage or some weirdo stuff and I can't relate. That's a fact. But if you solid, you come to me solid, or you want to be a solid individual, and I see the potential in you and you're working towards that, we can work. We can work, because iron sharpens iron, right? And I'm gonna need you eventually one day when I can't pull up my sword. You feel me? When I can't wield Excalibur because it's stuck in the rock, I'm gonna need you individuals. You hear me? Listen, it's my first video, but still, reach out, subscribe, like, hit that notification bell, get in the comment section, let me know what you want to hear about. I mean, we're gonna share this journey. Everybody that watch, everybody that share, everybody that tap in, we're gonna share this journey. My success is gonna be your success. If I can help some of y'all out, and it ain't about to kill me to do so, and I can, you know, kind of tap people into what I'm doing on different levels, because I got a bunch of investments that I'm catering to as well. So Retired from the Streets ain't just about a whole bunch of stories from the streets and prison. It's about a mentality, right? Because the streets for me is an acronym, and it stands for the stress that robs emotion and energy from the soul. So when you retire from the streets, you're retiring from a way of life, a mentality, right? A slump. So this applies to everybody and anybody, any walk of life. If you want to get on, right? Get off your butt and get on to something, and put your teeth on some meat and be able to say, okay, I'm investing now. I know what the Turo app does and how to get money with these cars. I know how to build my credit, right? I know how to invest in event spaces. I know how to, these are the things that me and my people tapping into, and I want to share this information with y'all, because I didn't even have a credit score 2 years ago, but now I'm up there now. You hear me? Credit good. I have no debt, right? So, and I really learned most of that on my own, and I joined a group on Facebook, but the rest of it, Earn Your Leisure, David Never Sleeps, in the vault with Ash Cash, you name them, all those dudes, Mr. Big Business, you know, the real estate guru, built the flip from right here in Michigan, right? So I follow the entrepreneurs, I follow the motivational speeches and the coaches and the influencers, because that's the lane that I want to create for me and mine. You know, thank y'all for tuning in. Just feel, get this out. It's like it's gonna be therapy for all of us. When y'all tap into the comment section, when y'all like, when y'all share, all that's gonna do is push YouTube to make me want to push more content to where I can put more information out there with you. So when y'all going through something, holla at y'all cousin, holla at y'all loved one and say, man, listen, I appreciate that. I'm gonna say, I appreciate you. You feel me? Or you could have went hard on that, bro. Or it seems like you holding something back. Talk to me. I'm human. I talk back. I just so happen to be in a position financially, right, investment-wise and other areas after 3 times in prison. You would have thought I'd be somewhere strung out on dope or back in prison. Now I'm doing straight now. I'm in the family house that I paid for, right? 10, 11 years ago. I haven't really been struggling since then. I've seen some ups and downs business-wise, but I got so much like assets now, bro, that I could liquidate some stuff tomorrow and don't never have to look back. And I mean, for real. And I'm in a position to do that now in a lot of senses, but I'm gonna share a lot of this with y'all. All the receipts, man. OG Kenny, O_G_Kenny, Retired from the Streets podcast. Check me out on the next edition. I love y'all. Peace and love.